Okay, let me start off by saying that I love the Lord of the Rings books and movies. I enjoyed the movies more than I thought I would. But there are some things that I would have tweaked. And there are some things that I don't really understand why it was there or why something was changed. And some of these thoughts are in my reviews for the trilogy and some are not. So feel free to also check out my reviews of the movies. I know I'm not the only one who has done this kind of video, and I'm probably not saying anything new and just clogging the algorithm with more of the same. To start with, I love the Shire and would have loved to have more Shire scenes. I wanted to see more of Fatty Bolger, Farmer Maggot, the Sackville Bagginses, and Rose. Definitely more of Sam and Rose's relationship, other than just them staring at each other. They could have easily had more interactions, or have Sam and Frodo talking about Rose on the journey, or have Sam dream about her. I feel like many relationships in the franchise, in the trilogy, weren't given enough screen time to blossom. I'm definitely glad there was more screen time given to Aragorn and Arwen, but the rest of them could have had more. I don't like Boromir's introduction. He's portrayed pretty callously. He just picks up, like when he picks up the shards of Narsil, he appears to admire it and then just drops it on the ground and walks away. All while Aragorn is reading in the dark and staring at him. I mean, it was not a good way to introduce the character at all. Once everyone pledges themselves to protect Frodo, Boromir could have said, "You have my shield," instead of getting attitude at the council. He's also a little whiny in the extended Two Towers scene. I'm not sure if it's meant to come across that way or not, but to me, it sounded like a whiny child wanting to stay home. And in Two Towers, I don't understand why Aragorn thinks that Arwen has sailed away, when the last conversation he had with Galadriel were the words, "I would have her." He doesn't know what she decided, so why would he tell Éowyn that she had? When the wargs attack, how did Legolas not see them ahead of time and warn the group? Because there's that whole scene before when Aragorn does say, "With your elf I see," and he's like, they're taking the hobbits to Isengard. Somehow he doesn't see these wargs. And he's standing ahead of the group as Hamma and somebody else are riding ahead of him. For me, the elves showing up at Helm's Deep takes away the tension of being outnumbered and Gandalf coming with reinforcements. And it also doesn't make, it's kind of anticlimactic because a few minutes before, when Aragorn tells Theoden to call for aid, Theoden's like, "Who's gonna come? Elves? Dwarves? We're not friends with them like you are." And then all of a sudden they come up. Then all of a sudden the elves just come riding along. So it's like, it's weird. If Theoden had not said that, it would have been less weird, but also, it just takes away the tension. I'm glad that they took Arwen out of the Helm's Deep scene, because if Arwen is there, then why can't Éowyn come out and fight as well? I just hate that Haldor dies, though. In Return of the King, maybe it's just me, but Peter Jackson doesn't seem to understand tension or suspense. I never trusted Denethor in the book, I guess because he was Boromir's dad. But again, just like with Faramir, there was more ambiguity on whether or not he was trustworthy. It felt like to me when I was reading the book that Denethor was just using Pippin to get information, and because he had been with Boromir, the relationship wasn't like between Merry and Theoden. A point where Return of the King could have slowed down to breathe for a couple of minutes was the Houses of Healing scene, because that's a pretty important scene to the story, and it could have slowed down with the garden scene between Éowyn and Faramir. Since the movies didn't include the Scouring of the Shire, I'm surprised at how much emphasis that they put on that storyline in the films. And something that really bugged me that's more in the book, but not in the movies. This bugs me with the movies. Right before Frodo sails away, he says that they set off to save the Shire. I don't remember any kind of conversation, any kind of extensive conversation between the hobbits about protecting the Shire. The only one I remember is when Merry and Pippin are in Fanghorn Forest, and at first the Ents are like, we're not going to help, and Pippin's like, we should just go home, and Merry's like, there ain't going to be a Shire if we don't get this done. And there's so much that happens in the books, it almost needs to be more than 3 movies. Or if Rings of Power didn't exist, I could easily see this being a multi-season show with more inclusive stuff. And with all the changes made to the films, part of me wonders who was the target audience. I would think when they originally released, the main audience members would be those who had read the books, with a couple of people in the audience who hadn't read the books. Again, I love these movies. I'm glad I read the books first. It was one of the few movie adaptations where I purposely waited to see the films until I read the books. I really don't think that Hunt for Gollum will be a success. I mean, out of all the stories they could have done, they go with that one? So, what are some things you would have changed, or what are some things you didn't like about the films? Let me know in the comments, like this video, share, and subscribe.